Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. Take a quick look around your community for a second. Have you ever wondered if a deep-rooted inclination toward peace is actually a sign of weakness, or is it an indestructible core strength just waiting to be unlocked? Well, today, we're unpacking a really fascinating essay that tackles that exact philosophical puzzle. It dives into the concepts of community identity, the tension between the individual and the collective, and even how societies process historical trauma. The author makes some pretty bold claims about what holds a community back, and, more importantly, what can push it forward.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The root value of peace. 2. The individual versus the community. 3. A comparative view of unity. 4. True social harmony. 5. The role of education. And finally, 6. 2 core principles for the future.
All right, let's jump straight into section 1, the root value peace, or as the text calls it, Mool Sanskar Shanti. Now, there's this common misconception out there that inherent peace, or Shanti, is just a polite word for cowardice. But the author completely rejects this idea. They argue that true cowardice actually comes from a place of unrest and a fundamental lack of faith. Instead, this peace is defined as Satyamula Alak, meaning it's entirely rooted in truth. So it's absolutely not a passive weakness. It's an active, indestructible bedrock that forms the very core of the community's identity. Just think about historical trauma for a minute. The essay points out that despite enduring immense suffering, wave after wave of foreign invasions, and severe atrocities, the core of this community remains entirely devoid of hatred. That is a profound level of resilience, right? The author argues that this hatred-free core isn't just good for the community itself, it's literally a vital necessity for the welfare of the entire world. But there's a catch. It's not currently reaching its full potential. That brings us to section 2, individual versus community, or Vyakti Banam Jati. Because if this piece is so powerful, what's actually holding things back? The author points to a dangerous rise in individualism, and they use this brilliant metaphor to explain it. A wave is a part of the ocean. It can never be bigger than the ocean. Just as it's physically absurd for a single wave to think it somehow outgrows the sea, it is equally ridiculous for an individual to elevate themselves above their own community. We live in a highly individualized world today, don't we? But the text asserts that you really can't separate the individual from the collective any more than you can separate a drop of water from the ocean. Freedom and personal identity only have actual, tangible meaning within the boundaries of the community. When we forget this connection, it causes collective sorrow and totally neutralizes that foundational peace we just talked about. Moving right along to section 3, a comparative view of unity, or Ekta Ka Tonatmak Drishtikon. To really highlight what is missing here, the author lays out a direct comparison. On one hand, you have the Hindu community, which the text argues possesses that inherent, indestructible peace, but desperately lacks collective, unified community identity. On the other hand, the author points to the Muslim community, stating that they exhibit a very strong, cohesive community identity and unity, which is referred to as Jatiya Ekta. The text impartially lays out these observations just to pinpoint the exact missing ingredient of unity. The crucial takeaway here is this philosophical ideal, a mutual exchange. Imagine a scenario where the Muslim community's strong, unified identity is adopted by the Hindu community, and in return, that profound, indestructible peace is shared. It's presented as a really powerful symbiotic vision for societal betterment.
Let's dive into section 4, true unity and social harmony, or Sachi Ekta or Samajik Samrasta.
The text uses the word abhiman, which translates to a profound sense of pride and belonging. But the author is super strict about this. This isn't just a buzzword for grand speeches. It actually has to be lived. True unity means when you pray for your own family's welfare, your definition of family literally encompasses the entire community. It's all about realizing this deep brotherhood in everyday practice. To make this a reality, the author explicitly calls for the complete dissolution of rigid social barriers. Looking at the traditional castes, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and the marginalized Antyaj, the argument is absolute. True unity simply cannot exist unless all these groups are treating as equal, indivisible limbs of one single body. The joy of one must literally be the joy of all. There's this really fascinating psychological insight from the essay here. You know how you can just instinctively feel when someone gives you a fake apology? Well, the author argues the exact opposite is true too. If a Brahmadi genuinely, in their heart of hearts, views a marginalized person as a brother, that person will instinctively feel that acceptance. No words needed. Silent internal transformation is far more powerful than empty political speeches on a stage.
Which leads us to Section 5, the role of education and society, or shiksha or samaj ki bhumika.
So how do we actually achieve this mass internal transformation? The author places the burden entirely on everyday institutions. This collective identity has to be actively hardwired into our schools and colleges, nurtured in our homes, discussed in public assemblies, and championed by the media. Basically, everyone has to pull in the exact same direction to reshape public opinion. And the ultimate goal? Profound radical empathy. The objective is to teach individuals to experience the joy and the sorrow of the entire community as if it were happening to them personally. If one single part of the community suffers or is attacked, you are educated to feel that sting exactly as if it happened to you. That is the intense level of cohesion required. Finally, we've reached Section 6, 2 core principles for the future, or Bhavishya ke do mool siddhant. The essay basically boils all this down to 2 non-negotiable rules for progress. Step 1. Protect and nourish the community's innate trait of peace. Do not treat it as a weakness or disturb it. Step 2. Every single individual must fully merge their personal desires with the collective welfare. Your personal ambition and the community's progress must become one and the same. These are the absolute bedrock principles for moving forward. Which leaves us with a pretty profound question. The author lays out this brilliant blueprint for turning a fragmented society into a unified powerhouse, all while maintaining its core of peace. But take a look at our hyper-individualized modern world. Can we truly be reprogrammed through education to put the collective first? Where does you end and your community begin? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope this leaves you with plenty to think about.